Tyranitar, a Pokemon with the appearance of a Demon King and the strength to match even the greatest of beasts. Generation 2 features the newly discovered Dark type, giving Psychic type Pokemon more of a reason to be extra cautious when called out onto the battlefield. In this episode of Pokemon Review, we will look like Tyranitar from its early days in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal up to the current generation of the Pokemon series. If you want to skip ahead onto the metagame portion of the review and my thoughts on that matter, scroll over to this portion of the video. With that being said, let's get started. Generation 2. Tyranitar made its appearance during Generation 2, which were Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal on the Game Boy Color handheld systems. Its pre-evolutionary form, Levitar, was a Pokemon that was unable to be captured until much later in the game, once the player cleared both the Johto gym leaders and the Kanto gym leaders. Then the player would need to travel near Victory Road and make their way through Mount Silver. Tyranitar is, well, in my opinion anyway, is considered to be the late game OP Pokemon of the lot, comparable enough to Dragonite, which also shares the same evolutionary stages as Tyranitar. Starting with the fact that it doesn't evolve to its second form until level 30, and near the level 50 plus areas, 55 to be exact, it evolves to its final form. Tyranitar was a very formidable Pokemon. With a lax in speed, it makes up for its crushing attack, decent HP stats, and its move pool, which includes ground, rock, normal, and dark type moves when just leveling up. Tyranitar can learn a wide range of TM moves, making it somewhat customizable to an extent. Back in my days of Generation 2, however, I was completely content with the moves Rock Slide, Earthquake, Hyper Beam, and Crunch. Many P vs peers, or those that battle other players, usually have this Pokemon as a backup ground types moves user. The reason for this is its typing, which is Dark and Rock, making it vulnerable still to electrical type attacks. Tyranitar was a very powerful Pokemon back then, there's no doubt about it. When used against the right Pokemon, of course. But what of Generation 3 and onward? Generation 3. Generation 3 saw the introduction to a new age of Pokemon, with the likes of Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and eventually Emerald. Now, we all know that Tyranitar doesn't appear legitimately in these games unless you guys use the cheat codes and saves. But it does appear in later releases, which were Pokemon Leaf Green, a remake of the original Japanese version of the game, and Pokemon Fire Red, the remake of our American cousin game. In the midst of this, Tyranitar still attains its high rating in the attack stat, with a much more defined IV training mechanic put into this generation. And EVs that can be attained from breeding, Tyranitar can be customized to a more suitable role. A common upbringing for this Pokemon will be going straight for its HP and attack stats. Some may even try pulling the EV train towards the defense and attack stat to better defend or tank against rock, dark, and pretty much any other element that it is resistant to. The TM pool is again increased, with countless amounts of moves that Tyranitar can learn. Generation 3 didn't change much, except with the introduction of double battles, even more items, and something called natures. A common nature that was used even back then was the Indominant nature, which boosted its attack stat to a staggering amount when combined with the correct EV train. Well, that was a bit to say there. Overall, Tyranitar still maintained its edge, even with another 100 plus Pokemon introduced into the series. But Generation 4 will see both a new host of beginnings and yet another remake into the horizon. Generation 4. In Generation 4, which were Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and officially the remakes Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Tyranitar's move pool got a bit of a makeover. Generation 4 introduced even more Pokemon, more moves, TMs, and the now widely known term, Wi-Fi battles and metagames. In regards to the stats, it still hasn't changed much to that regard, maintaining a decently high attack stat. Its pre-evolutionary form, yes, I didn't forget you, could be obtained in Pokemon Diamond by first defeating the Elite Four and defeating Cynthia, the champion. Oh my gosh, she's a champion, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, you know my name is Cynthia, and well, Never mind. Anyway, making sure you had the Polka radar, you fly to Orkburg City, head down to Route 207 and there you go, bomba! In Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the location which you found this Pokemon hasn't changed, well, from the last time I played, making it available throughout the Gen 4 games. Alright, Lavatar, goodbye! With even more Pokemon to combat against, a very common natures for Tyranitar is once again the Undominant Nature, boosting its attack stat. Another one that's not so common, well back in Generation 4 anyways, is the Jolly Nature. Its overall design, TM pool, and more hasn't gone through a major change. Most only complain about its weaknesses, which are a bit, especially the quadruple weakness to the fighting type. One major change to mention, which has been kept in the games from here on, is the way the moves are categorized. Moves that have a sense of physically attacking a Pokemon will be known as physical, and no, I'm not talking about normal physical, F off Wigglytuff, but will rely more on the Pokemon's attack stat while calculating the weaknesses and resistance. Moves that do well, it looks like an AoE, so let's go with that, or don't necessarily create physical contact with said Pokemon, are known as special moves, and will rely more on the Pokemon's special attack stat. Other dark Pokemon, including even the pure dark typings, can sneak past Tyranitar due to this fact, since many Pokemon that were put at a disadvantage back in Generation 2 can now become useful again in this fact. Some can even get ahead of Tyranitar due to this change, and having fewer weaknesses, but Tyranitar still manages a hold on players, particularly in the Wi-Fi battles. Alright, that is it for Generation 4. Oh, it's almost like Tyranitar hasn't aged at all. Well, that wraps up Generation 4. Up next is Pokemon Black and White, and any other games that were introduced in Generation 5. Generation 5. Pokemon Black and White. Wow. Where can I even begin with the amount of additions made to this game? Triple battles, even more Wi-Fi battles, more Pokemon, and so much more! With the previous statement made on how moves are handled, this makes this even more staggering. Fortunately for this Pokemon, trainers or players okay fine, it's not that funny, still uses this Pokemon as an extremely offensive combatant. In regards to the game's Bulbasaur, no, back Levy, back I say, could be attained on Route 15 in both the original games and the second installments, which were Pokemon Black 2 and Pokemon White 2. You will have to breed in order to get the first evolutionary form. There you go, you can come out now. There you are. Natures are still around, but starting on Generation 4, more detailed information about your Pokemon could make the difference of getting one that would suit the role and one that would, keep the bot swarmer? I'm sorry, I'm trying to go for the benchwarmer reference here. Anyway, common movesets for this Pokemon were Stone Edge, Earthquake, and either a move that counter another Pokemon, or another one that would boost a particular stat, Dragon Dance Sweep. Such as its attack stat. Dominant and Jolly natures are again the main natures for this Pokemon, but with even more characters and even more ways to fully customize this Titan. More and more trainers are leaving it behind. Okay, not really. Again, even with all the changes that have been made, it has only made Tyranitar even more appealing to those seeking a buff attack Pokemon for their team. Triple battles were a crazy new addition in this generation, but I cannot really say how Tyranitar fared in this regard. I would say a good combo of Pokemon that could at least dodge Tyranitar's attack, just as Earthquake, oh god, and provide cover will be a good choice for this. In my time of Wi-Fi battles, Tyranitar was a Pokemon that I, well, barely saw online. That doesn't mean that it lost its appeal. In fact, it only grows even stronger in the next and current generation of Pokemon. Current generation and metagames. Finally at the current generation and the metagames. Oh man. With the rise of even more Pokemon and even more ways to battle, Tyranitar has simply become one of the many Pokemon that, when used correctly, can decide a match for the trainer. In Pokemon X, Y, Omega Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire, Pokemon was introduced to Mega Evolutions. When holding the correct item, a Pokemon could Mega Evolve into an even stronger version of itself. Tyranitar was given this gift, and has become a monster. In the light of how much Pokemon has transformed over the past years, many communities have been formed. Although I don't normally involve myself in them, due to Sylvie not having the time and also not having the 3DS handheld by choice, I am going to be using one I'm pretty sure most of you guys are familiar with. Pokemon Showdown! Run and managed by the community Shogun, Shogun has gone through great lengths to give us the most updated and highly effective stats for all Pokemon created. As stated before, the common nature for Tyranitar, and a competitive standpoint anyway, is the dominant nature, which when we take a closer look at it, increases the physical attack stat, while decreasing its special attack stat. When its Mega evolves, the stats are increased tenfold, making it a very chaotic Pokemon to deal with, if brought out in the right moment. Looking closely at Tyranitar, we can see that its special attack stat doesn't increase by much anyway, and actually stays at least 30 to 50 points behind the physical attack stat, around the level 50 range when you include the EV training, which by the way you're not doing it competitively can be randomized depending on which Pokemon you are training at. At the level 100 plus range, the gap is even greater, making it quite obvious what type of moves it should know. Although it can learn a wide range of special attacks, it is best to stick to mostly physically attacking movesets and those that complement said movesets such as Dragon Dance, which increases its both attack and speed stats. Another nature that I mentioned, Jolly, is one that is workable with Tyranitar, but also one that is rarely used. The Jolly nature, as you all know, increases the speed stat, while again decreasing the special attack stat. This nature works well with Dragon Dance and other common physical attacking moves, but I feel that its attack stack is missing out by a bit. Although when looking at both natures, it's either one that increases the attack or speed, and bumps out the special attack stat altogether. A Dominant seems to be the best choice in this regard, but I do have some problems with the Jolly nature, starting with the fact that there is little to no room to stab any points towards its HP. Although it has never been considered a real tank of sorts, having a decent enough HP would enable Tyranitar to tough out any moves that would do neutral amounts of damage to it. Would I recommend putting a few points towards HP? There is a give and take equation to this problem. The solution is ultimately up to the player. Even a small amount will help the HP pool, and again, with the Dragon Dance combo, it will still gain a large amount of attack and speed if it is able to get set up while having a bit more HP in the long run. Another nature that I would analyze for this Pokemon is Impeach, one that is pretty much non-existent, but one that is still quite possible with Tyranitar. Now, before I begin, this is simply my own thoughts and opinions on any possible builds or natures for this particular Pokemon. I will be going into the stats, displaying and also showing how or why they could possibly work. Thank you for your understanding. Tyranitar's already high attack can be stacked upon once again with the move Dragon Dance, or if the player chooses another move that focuses on the same stat, although why they would do that is beyond me. Just throwing it out there. With EVs trained upon the defense stat, and some put towards our HP or even the attack or speed stat, Tyranitar can become somewhat of a physical defense tank with the ability to be able to take hits from physically attacking moves. Pokemon such as Gyarados, that were once useless due to the special attack split back in Generation 2, have now become ever strong, and a threat to many Pokemon due to the way the moves are categorized and calculated starting in Generation 4. Moves such as Aqua Tail may not one-hit KO Tyranitar, but Gyarados, and any Pokemon with high attack stats and elements such as water, ice, well, you get the idea, can also raise her stat using this mentioned move, and sweep, as you like to call it, Pokemon such as Tyranitar, and any others for that matter. This is a case-by-case basis, and will greatly depend on what Pokemon is in the team, and how that player uses those Pokemon. With the previous statements, if Tyranitar were to have a somewhat bulky defense at other points either towards speed or attack, it can at least withstand physically damaging water-type moves or other elements that it is weak to, not including that quadruple fighting attack weakness. Man, that Karate Chop is going to sting, and begin to set itself up using the above moveset that I have mentioned. The movesets haven't really changed in this possible build, Perhaps a move such as Protect could be possibly drawn on there to shield it against more incoming damage, just in case it is being used as a makeshift throwaway Pokemon to safely switch out another one that can begin the sweeping process for the team. One more questionable build that I would like to explore before cutting this video to any other games and to a close is one which involves Tyranitar with Assassin Nature. This was talked about a few years ago after a few helpful, totally helpful there Google, searches and coming onto this page. Well, let's try it. Assassin Nature reduces Tyranitar's speed, but increases its special defense. Adding points to either HP or even attack will make it appear to have a similar build like the one I came up with tried before, except that the defense is leaning towards the special defense. Letting Tyranitar hold leftovers or any items that can increase its defense in general will be a good choice. Combining the movesets that leads Tyranitar to a much more supportive role. Oh, those selfie rocks, man. Yes indeed. Overall, this build will work well even with the current metagames and online battles, but I feel that Tyranitar is more suitable in a much more offensive role. However, every player is different, and will depend on the goal, the team, and how the team is utilized. Tyranitar, Tyranitar, Tyranitar. I am so happy to see this Pokemon not only still discussed and used, but also seeing it with its very own Mega Evolutionary form. With the correct build and a good team, Tyranitar will make a great addition to just about any group of companions. I can go on about the other games it has involved itself in, the other appearances it's made, up to the manga, and so much more. What else can I say about this Pokemon? I loved it from the moment my Pupitar evolved into its final form, and haven't lost the love for it since. Its nasty attack stat, well, physical anyway, combined with its design, move pool, and typing, makes it a great choice for those who are looking for an offensive alternative to any other teammate they may have in their roster. And with that being said, this concludes this Pokemon review. I really hope you enjoyed watching it and enjoyed listening to me narrating it. This is my first Pokemon review and will not be my last. So if you like it, give it a like. If you dislike it, well, give it a dislike. But please let me know why. And if you would like to be featured in these little Pokemon reviews of mine, and also happen to use Pokemon Showdown, let me know via Facebook, Twitter, or say it on the comment section below, and see if we can collab or something. Oh, those collabs, those youngsters doing collabs nowadays. Until next time, guys, take care.